It's a smoky night in the early 1950s. The kind of night where the city lights blur against rain-streaked windows and the streets hum with quiet excitement. Inside a crowded nightclub, glasses clink softly. Waiters weave through tightly packed tables. Cigarette smoke curls slowly toward the ceiling like ghostly ribbons. People are talking, laughing, barely paying attention to the small stage at the front of the room. Because tonight, the man walking toward the microphone isn't supposed to impress anyone? Not really. His name is Dean Martin. And according to many critics at the time, he wasn't the star people thought he was. Some said he only succeeded because of his partnership with Jerry Lewis. Others believed he was just a smooth talker with a pleasant voice. Nothing extraordinary. Newspapers whispered the same thing. Take away the comedy partner. And what do you have? Many people in that room believed the answer was simple. Not much. But something strange was about to happen that night. Something that would make the entire room go silent. Something that would make critics rethink everything they thought they knew about Dean Martin. And it would happen with just one song. Now, before we step fully into that moment, let me ask you something. Have you ever had someone underestimate you? Maybe people thought you weren't capable of something big. Maybe they laughed at your dream. Maybe they told you you'd never stand out. Hold on to that feeling for a moment, because that's exactly where Dean Martin was standing that night. Right on the edge between doubt and destiny. The band on stage begins tuning their instruments. The soft murmur of a piano drifts across the room. A trumpet player blows a few quiet notes. But the audience barely notices. They're busy talking about movies, boxing matches, and weekend plans. Dean Martin walks onto the stage slowly, almost casually. No dramatic entrance, no spotlight explosion. Just a tall man in a suit, holding a glass and smiling like he has nowhere important to be. Some people clap politely. Others barely look up. In fact, one critic sitting near the back reportedly leaned toward his friend and whispered something like, "Let's see if he can actually sing tonight." Ouch. Imagine hearing that about yourself. But here's the fascinating thing about Dean Martin. He didn't rush. He didn't defend himself. He didn't try to prove anything. Instead, he did something completely unexpected. He waited. The band finished tuning. The room slowly settled. Conversation softened just a little. Dean leaned toward the microphone and said softly, "Good evening, folks. Let's try something tonight." Just something. Not the greatest performance you'll ever hear. Not a show you'll never forget. Just something. And then the piano began. Soft, lonely, almost like a whisper. The room didn't know it yet, but the song he was about to sing would change everything people thought about him. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud. It wasn't designed to impress critics. It was honest. And sometimes honesty is far more powerful than perfection. Dean closed his eyes for a moment, and then he sang. The first line floated into the air so gently that some people at the back almost missed it. But the ones who heard it first did something interesting. They stopped talking. Just stopped. Because the voice coming from that microphone wasn't the relaxed jokester they expected. It was warm, deep, smooth in a way that felt effortless, like velvet drifting through the room. The kind of voice that didn't demand attention, but quietly captured it. A woman sitting near the stage slowly lowered her glass. A couple at a nearby table turned their chairs toward the stage. The critic who had made the sarcastic comment earlier raised one eyebrow slightly. Dean Martin continued singing. Each note felt calm, controlled, but filled with something deeper, something that sounded almost like lived experience. Not a performance, a feeling. And suddenly the room began changing. The noise faded. The clinking glasses stopped. Even the waiters slowed down as they passed between tables, because something rare was happening. People were realizing they had misunderstood the man on stage. Completely. The band followed his voice perfectly. Soft piano chords, gentle brushes on the drums, a quiet stand-up bass walking slowly beneath the melody. But the real magic was the way Dean sang the words. He didn't push them. He didn't show off. He let them breathe. Like he trusted the emotion of the song to do the work for him. And that kind of confidence is hard to ignore. By the time he reached the second verse, something remarkable had happened. The entire nightclub was silent. Not the polite silence of an audience waiting for the next act. Real silence. The kind where people lean forward without realizing it. Where every ear in the room is focused on one single sound, his voice. And the critics, the same ones who had doubted him, were suddenly scribbling notes in small notebooks. Because they were hearing something they hadn't expected. Soul. Now imagine being in that room. Would you have believed it? Would you have thought the relaxed crooner people joked about could suddenly transform the entire atmosphere of a crowded club? Or would you have been just as shocked as everyone else? Dean Martin didn't look like someone trying to prove a point. He still stood there casually, one hand resting near the microphone, the other loosely at his side. But the way he sang told a different story. This was a man who understood emotion, understood heartbreak, understood longing, and he knew exactly how to deliver those feelings through music. The final verse arrived quietly. His voice softened even more, almost like he was singing directly to each person in the room. And then came the final note. He held it gently, let it drift across the room, and released it like a sigh. The band stopped. For one brief moment, nothing happened. No applause, no cheers, just silence. The kind of silence that only appears after something unforgettable. Then someone near the front began clapping. Slowly, another joined, then another. Within seconds, the entire room erupted. People stood up, glasses raised. Some even whistled loudly from the back tables. And the critics? They were clapping too. Not politely, not out of obligation, but because they had just witnessed something they couldn't deny anymore. Dean Martin wasn't just a charming performer. He was a singer with real power, real emotion, real presence. And that night, with one single song, he shattered every doubt people had about him. But here's the twist that makes the story even more interesting. Dean Martin didn't react like someone who had just proven everyone wrong. He simply smiled, shrugged slightly, and took a small sip from his glass, like the entire moment was no big deal. That relaxed confidence became part of his legend. Soon after nights like this, audiences everywhere began seeing him differently. Not just as half of a comedy duo, but as a star in his own right. The man who could walk onto a stage casually and steal the entire room with nothing but his voice. Later in his career, he would record classics like That's Amore and Everybody Loves Somebody, songs that would cement his place in music history. But nights like this were where the legend truly began. Moments when skeptics became believers. Moments when critics quietly admitted they had been wrong. And moments when Dean Martin proved that sometimes the most powerful performers are the ones who look the most effortless. So now I want to turn the spotlight to you for a second. Imagine you were sitting in that nightclub. The lights dim, the piano begins. Dean Martin steps up to the microphone. When a single performance suddenly changes the way the world sees an artist. Tell me what you think in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you enjoy stories about legendary performers, unforgettable moments in music history, and the nights that changed everything, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next story, because the next one might be even more surprising. Would you have recognized greatness in that first note, or would you have been one of the people who underestimated him at the beginning? Moments like this remind us of something important. Sometimes the world decides who you are before you even get the chance to prove yourself, but all it takes is one moment, one performance, one opportunity to change everything. And that's exactly what happened the night Dean Martin shocked his critics with one unforgettable song. Now I'm curious, do you think moments like this still happen in music today?